Storytelling is one of the greatest skills a magician performs to woo the audience with wonder, yet the best magic performances are the ones that build the most level of interest, from Trigg Watson's mind-blowing digital magic, to Cyril Takayama pushing his hand through the glass of an aquarium. In today's video, we're going to reveal the secrets of the 10 most popular magic tricks in the world. Without any further ado, let's begin. At number 10 we have Impossible Levitation Illusion on Penn Teller Fool Us. Let's do a quick recap of what happened in the performance. At the beginning of his illusion, the magician lies on a table and his assistant stands by his side. Suddenly, she makes his body levitate off the table and moves him in the air some feet away from the table. Then she turns his body around and lands him on his feet. Moments later, she makes him levitate off the ground and makes him move about the scene, by making him hold onto a hoop. Then she puts the hoop around his body from his legs as he lands on his feet. She did this to show that no object is used to suspend him in the air. Well, how did he perform his trick? Here is the secret. As you can see in this exposed illustration view, we notice that a wire connected to the left side of the room is wrapped around and connected to the right side of the magician's body. Also, a wire from the right side of the room is wrapped around and connected to the left side of his body. Secondly, when the magician was lying on the table, we observed there was initially a slack in the wires connected to his body. Also, at that moment, there was no tension in the wires. Thirdly, we notice that the wires are knotted around each other. Although they are not tightly knotted, they are crossed above each other. The wires are crossed above one another to make the illusionist spin clockwise in the air before he is seen standing vertically in the air. Another observation we made is that when the magician's body was initially levitated, the center of his body rose first. Also, his legs and his upper body are bent, and this is because of the wires connected around the illusionist's waist. When the tension in the wire from the opposite side of the room is applied, the magician is lifted upwards. Once he is lifted upwards, the tension in the wires causes them to untangle, and as they untangle, it causes his body to spin clockwise in the air. After the wires are completely untangled, his body orientates to a normal position. The left side of his body is connected to the right side of the room from the viewer's perspective. Following that, the illusionist uses his legs and arms to shift his center of gravity and adjust his body to make him levitate in the air vertically. After Willi floats vertically in the air, the tension in the wires is reduced so he can stand on the floor. Moments later, the tension in the wires was increased to make the magician levitate again. While he was levitating, the wire on the left side of the room pulled him, and that caused him to move to his right. Also, while he was levitating, we noticed that his body could only be twisted to a certain angle and he couldn't twist his body further than that. This is because the tension in the wire from the right side of the room pulling him doesn't allow his body to twist that much. The same thing happened when he levitated to the right side of the room. Additionally, to help him maintain his stability, his assistant had him hold onto a hoop. Towards the end of Willi's performance, when his assistant put the hoop around his legs up to his upper body, we made some observations. When she placed the hoop around his legs as he was about to land, the tension in the wire was reduced and the wire was slacked. This enabled the hoop to go over the magician's body, and at the moment she raised it above his head, the wires were just behind the hoop. As a result, she can't take the hoop further than that due to the wires connected to Willi's body. Then she had to pass the hoop over his head and down to his legs to remove it. At number 9 we have the Brotherhood's Dangerous Stunt. Let's do a quick recap of what happened in the performance. One of the masked Brotherhood magicians slices a watermelon with a katana to prove the katana was real. There are 4 long boxes erected on the stage. The magicians claim they would fall on 3 out of the 4 boxes without knowing where the katana is hidden. So they invite Deck to the stage and hand him the sharp katana. Then, a curtain drops and the host is told to go behind the curtain to hide the katana in one of the 4 boxes. Following that, the illusionists invite Simon to the stage to select the boxes they should fall onto. Then the curtain is raised and the host is blindfolded to prevent him from seeing the boxes Simon selects for them to fall onto. Amazingly, after each of the 3 magicians jumped on their given boxes, none of them jumped on the box that contained the katana. Then the 4th box was removed to reveal that the katana was hidden in it. Well, how did they perform their dangerous stunt? Here is the secret. The 3 magicians made it seem like the selections were random and their lives are at stake, even when there was no risk involved in their performance. When Deck was told to hide the katana under any of the 4 boxes, he was given a free choice. Although the magicians initially didn't know where the host hid the katana, the magician's assistant was looking in a position from behind the stage. So he saw the host when he was hiding the katana under one of the boxes. This assistant passed the information to the magician, who gave the envelopes to Simon to randomly choose the boxes they were to jump on. The masked Brotherhood magicians genuinely gave Simon a free choice to select any envelope. This is because the masked magician had control over what number can be shown on the paper, since the pieces of paper in all the envelopes Simon had were gimmicked. When the masked magician, who gave the judge the envelopes, brought out the numbered papers from the envelope, we noticed that they were initially folded, which he unfolded to read the number. We observed that when he unfolded the papers there was an odd thickness on each of the papers. We noticed the odd thickness clearly when he unfolded the paper numbered 3, which shows that it isn't single piece of paper, but more than one piece of paper joined together. When the papers are brought out of the envelope and unfolded, each of them can show any of the 4 numbers on the boxes. Each piece of paper has 3 flaps which can be moved up and down to reveal any of the 4 numbers. All the magician had to do was avoid opening the number 2, as it was the box number that contained the katana. At number 8 we have Anna's mind-boggling card trick on Penn and Teller Fool Us. Let's do a quick recap of what happened in the performance. At the beginning of her performance, Anna brings out 2 decks of playing cards and asks Teller to pick a deck while she holds onto the other deck. Following that, she tells Allison to select a special number in her mind and say it out loud, and she chooses 24. Thereafter, the illusionist riffles through the deck and asks Penn to call out stop. Once Penn calls out stop, she shows him the card without peeking. Then she performs cardistry, and when she stops shuffling the cards, Anna claims Penn's card is 24th card in the deck. Afterwards, she asks Penn about the card he chose earlier, and he says it was the 6 of hearts. As she counts the 24 down cards in the deck and gets to the 24th card, she picks it up and chooses not to reveal it, giving the reason that she touched the particular deck. Therefore, she decides that it would seem fair and less manipulative if the 24th down card in a deck she has no access to is used. So she tells Teller to bring out the deck she gave him initially, and amazingly, the 24th down card turns out to be 6 of hearts. Well, how did she perform her trick? Here is the explanation. Firstly, at the beginning of her performance, when she presented Teller with 2 decks of cards, both decks were stacked deck, which means they were arranged in a special sequence. This special sequence utilized in both deck was memorized by the magician. Not only did she memorize the sequence but also memorized which card was at which position in the deck. So when Allison picked number 24, Anna immediately knew that the 6 of hearts was the 24th card in the sequence in both decks, before they were shuffled. During her performance, when she asked the host to pick a birthday date but a day and not a year or month, she did that so a random number could be selected. There is a maximum of 31 days in a month, so the host can't pick a number higher than 31. The purpose of this is that the magician only had to memorize the sequence of the first 31 card from the top of the deck, instead of the entire deck, making her job easier for her. Once the illusionist made the host say the number out loud, she immediately knew the card she had to force the 6 of hearts on Penn using the deck she had in her hands. The reason she had to force the 6 of hearts is because in the memorized deck Teller had, the 6 of hearts was positioned 24th card in the deck. Therefore, she quickly went through the deck in her hands to look for the 6 of hearts, but the footage of the moment she was looking through the deck for the 6 of hearts was intentionally cut out of the video by the producers. To prove the footage had been cut out, you can see that when Allison mentioned the number 24, Anna had her hands in the air and the deck wasn't in her hands. But then suddenly, the camera angle changed and the deck was suddenly in the magician's hands. It was during that moment the illusionist looked for the 6 of hearts card in the deck in her hands, and the camera cut occurred to hide the scene. During the camera cut, she went through the deck and found the 6 of hearts card, and caught a pinky break in her left hand. This technique enabled her to separate the top deck from the lower deck, but it isn't obvious when looking at it from the front view. After she catches the pinky break, she shifted the deck so she could hold it with 3 fingers on one side and her thumb on the other side of the deck, while at the same time misaligning the deck, which you can see in this frame. You can actually see Anna initially skipping the card Penn asked her to stop on.
Stop.
Right there.
Notice her fingers were on the 10 of spades card at the moment Penn said stop, but she didn't stop at that exact moment. Instead, she riffled further into the deck to stop at the 6 of hearts. Therefore successfully forcing Penn into selecting the 6 of hearts. At this point everything was set up, and the moment she was doing cardistry really had no relevance to the methodology behind the trick. Hence, they counted the down deck with Teller, and the 24th card turned out to be the 6 of hearts just as she planned. At number 7 we have Dynamo's photo magic trick. Let's do a quick recap of what happened in the performance. In this trick, the magician magically snaps a photograph of a couple with his bare hands without using a camera. After taking the picture, he gives the couple the instant print. Following that, he snaps a picture of a group of girls with his bare hands without using a camera and he presents it to them after taking the picture. Well, how did he perform his trick? Here is the explanation. Firstly, the postures of the individuals before the magician allegedly snapped them magically are not the same in the instant print after the pictures were taken. In the first picture, the woman was holding her bag near her elbow and her arm was positioned upwards while she was posing for the photograph. But in the photograph Dynamo gave them after he allegedly took the picture, she wasn't wearing the bag around her elbow. Instead, she held her bag in her hand with her hand hanging downwards. Similarly, in the second photograph, one of the ladies was holding onto a balloon and another was holding a purse while the magician allegedly took the picture. However, in the photograph he gave them, the lady wasn't holding the balloon. Instead, the lady holding a purse is the one holding the balloon in the picture he gave them. Also, one of the ladies was looking straight at the magician as he took the picture. But in the picture, she was looking towards the left side. Now we understand that the magician didn't take the pictures with his bare hands and from the position he was standing, but we are yet to disclose how the pictures were taken. Sorry for the interruption. If you have made it this far into the video, be sure to hit the like button, also consider subscribing, I would really appreciate the support. It really helps grow this channel. Thank you, now let's get back into the video. As it turns out, before the groups crossed paths with Dynamo, they had walked into random photographers who took pictures of them and printed them out instantly. Then these photographers gave those instant prints to the magician and he used them for his tricks. While he was talking to the spectators, he placed his hands in his hoodie pocket and hid the picture of each group that was before him in his right hand. That is why his right hand was always facing him when he pretended to take pictures of the spectators. Also, we spot a glimpse of white material in the illusionist's hands while he is rubbing his palms together. He accidentally flashed the end of the photograph while performing his illusion. Then to make the photographs appear in his hands, Dynamo palmed the photograph in his right hand, while he pretended to take their photographs with his bare hands. He then rubbed his palms together and twisted his hand around to reveal them to the spectators. At number 6 we have Amazing Allison's Magic Square on Fool Us. Let's do a quick recap of what happened in the performance. The magician begins her magic tricks by asking Penn to think of a 2-digit number between 25 and 100 without saying it out loud. Then she asks him to write the number on a sheet of paper and fold it up into quarters while she turns away. Afterward, Allison turns back around, shreds the piece of paper, makes it catch fire, and reads the judge's mind while holding his hands. Thereafter, the illusionist tells Penn to time her while she tries to write out his chosen number on a magic square. Once she's done writing, she shows the judge her table and asks if he sees his number on her magic square, but he says he doesn't, and that the number he chose was 26. Amazingly, the sum of the numbers on each row of the magic square amounts to 26. Also, the sum of numbers on each column of the magic square amounts to 26. In addition, there are over 26 ways to equal 26 from the magic square. Well, how did she perform her trick? Here is the explanation. After her performance, Penn had the following to say about Allison's performance.
Magic Square, we happen to know.
This means we first need to understand how a magic square is created. To explain how the illusionist performed this trick, we need compare her 4x4 magic square for the number 26, to a magic square for the number 46. In the first rows of the two magic squares, we notice that the first numbers don't match but the remaining 3 numbers in both rows match. Also, in the second row, except for the numbers 21 and 5, the numbers on both magic squares are a match. Additionally, the same can be noticed about the other 2 rows that one number doesn't match. However, the remaining numbers are not just the same but are in the same slots in the magic squares. We notice the same pattern when we compared Allison's magic square with the magic square for the number 58. From our aforementioned observations, it appears that some sort of algorithm is used to create the magic square chart. In this algorithm, n stands for the number that Penn wrote secretly on the little piece of paper. Although n ranges from 25 to 100 as Allison told the judge before he chose a number. In reality, the magician can start range from the number 21 instead of 25. The specific numbers that appeared commonly in each of those magic square charts mentioned earlier always remain the same, and they appear in the same slots. If we make 26 the value of n and use it to solve the equations in the magic square, we would get the numbers Allison put in each unknown slot. the first box from the left in the first row would be 26 minus 20, which is equal to 6, and the second box from the right in the second row would be 26 minus 21, which is equal to 5. Also, the first box from the right in the third row would equal 8 after the calculation, and the second box from the left in the last row would be 7. Allison had already sketched the 4x4 magic square chart on her notepad before asking Penn to choose a number. In the beginning, from her notepad, we observed that the magic square had been drawn, but it didn't contain the numbers. Therefore, the first thing she had to do was to quickly fill in the already memorized magic square numbers pattern in their respective slots. Then she quickly replaced n with 26 in the equations and solved them. Although Penn didn't say the number 26 until she finished filling the magic square with numbers, the magician knew the number he chose right after he wrote in on the piece of paper. Now you may be wondering how that is even possible, since she immediately tore the paper. Well, the technique she used to detect the number the judge chose in his mind is called a center tier peek. In the beginning, after the illusionist gives the judge a range to select the number from, she picks a piece of paper and draws a circle in its center. Following that, she instructed Penn to write the number he was thinking of in the middle of the circle, and he wrote 26 on it. Thereafter, the illusionist asked the judge to fold the paper in 4. Once the judge folds the paper in 4, we notice that Allison tears a portion of the piece of paper from the center. The portion she tore from the folded sheet is the exact portion the judge wrote the number he chose, so she unfolds it and peeks at it. At this moment, we notice her eyes looking at her hands while she was allegedly shredding the paper. Afterward, she continued shredding the remaining pieces of the folded paper. Then at the very end, when she had successfully peeked at the number, she tore the piece that contained the number as well. As it turns out, the piece of paper wasn't normal, which explains why it caught fire afterwards. Instead, it is flash paper, which is a special paper made out of nitrocellulose that ignites when it is sparked. There was an arc igniter in the trash tray. Allison dropped the shredded paper, which was ignited when the illusionist threw the paper into the tray. The igniter was controlled wirelessly with a remote control, which made it seem like the magician made the fire appear magically. At number 5 we have David Copperfield's death saw illusion. Let's do a quick recap of what happened in the performance. At the beginning of this trick, the illusionist is chained to a platform and locked in a compartment by his assistants against his will. Then, an electric death saw is powered above him. Moments later, the illusionist releases his hands from the shackles and unboxes himself. But in his attempts to free himself from the shackles holding his waist to the platform, the death saw drops on his waist and splits him in half. Amazingly, the magician doesn't seem to be in distress when his assistants pull both halves of the platform apart and turn his upper body around. Fascinatingly, his legs can be seen moving like they are not detached from his upper body. Thereafter, David's assistant turns his upper body back around and he switches the death saw back on magically. Also, he magically joins both halves of the platform without the help of his assistants and locks himself up in the compartment. Following that, he opens the compartment by himself and stands on the platform with his body intact and without a scratch. Well, how did he perform his trick? Here is the explanation. The whole act of David trying to escape from the compartment to avoid the saw blade was to keep his audience in suspense. In reality, the illusion is intended to split his body apart. At the beginning of his trick, the box the magician gets into is purposely used in the performance to cover the platform. The purpose of this box is to enable the illusionist to place his feet at the base of the platform. As it turns out, the platform has 2 sections, with one section above the other. The first section is where the magician positions his feet beneath a compartment and he adjusts his body into a crouching position. While the magician was inside the box, he used a white-colored shirt, similar to his shirt, to connect his upper body to the fake lower body. David did this to make it seem like the fake lower body on the platform was his lower body. When the saw blade was switched on and appeared to split his body in half, it didn't cut him. Instead, it cut the shirt he used to connect the pants of the fake legs to his upper body. Also, this made the illusion more convincing as there's a gap between his body and the lower body. When we said the lower body on the platform was fake, we didn't mean it was lifeless. Instead, we meant that it doesn't belong to David as his lower body is hidden in the box's compartment. As it turns out, the fake lower body belongs to an acrobat who has their body bent and hidden in the lower compartment of the other half of the box. After the magician's upper body and the fake lower body were supposedly joined together, the acrobat had to flatten his body in the compartment. He does this to ensure that his legs are not visible to the audience once the illusionist stands up at the end of his performance. At number 4 we have Issy Simpson's Insane Wizardry. Let's do a quick recap of what happened in the performance. The magician begins her trick by placing a box on the judge's table. Then she presents Amanda, Alicia, and Dave with different books, asking them to go through the pages to ensure they are different. Then she asks Simon and Dave to lift her box off the desk and drop it on the floor, but they can't because it is too heavy. However, when she walks over, she removes a deck of cards from the box, lifts the box off the table, and drops it on the floor. Afterward, Simon chooses a face-down card from her deck and Alicia's book among the 3 books. Then he chooses page 77 out of the 600 pages in the book. Thereafter, she asks the female judge to go through the words in the book and choose a word, and she chooses kettle. Astonishingly, Issy reveals that she had written the word kettle on her board moments before the show. Also, she asks Simon to reveal his card, which is a 4 of diamonds. When she takes her jacket off, she has a picture of Simon holding the same playing card on it. How did she perform her trick? Here is an explanation. The magician's box isn't an ordinary box but is specially prepared for her performance. Also, a setup was done by the producers of the show and the illusionist when the judges and the audience weren't in the theater. From our observations, we noticed some things about the box Issy used for her performance. As it turns out, there is a cardboard piece of paper which acted as a false bottom, hiding several electronic components in the box. There are 2 large electromagnets in the box that can hold 20 kilograms and require 12 volts DC to produce that magnetic field. These 2 electromagnets are connected to a receiver circuit module. The receiver module is powered by 2 rechargeable 7.2 volts nickel-cadmium batteries that are connected in a series circuit, with a resulting voltage of 14.4 volts. These batteries have enough voltage to power the 2 large electromagnets that require 12 volts. Additionally, the producers of the show placed a metallic sheet underneath the judge's desk on purpose. So when the illusionist drops the box on the table and the magnets are activated with the transmitter remote, it causes the box to feel like it weighs 40 kilograms. This is because each of the electromagnets has an attraction force of 20 kilograms, which explains why the 2 judges couldn't lift it off the table. In addition, the deck the magician had Simon select a card from wasn't an ordinary deck of cards, but a specially designed gimmick deck called a destiny deck. As it turns out, each card in the deck is in pairs, and are attached together with roughing spray to make it appear as one playing card, when in reality if you were to pick one of those cards out of the deck, you would notice they are 2 cards stuck together. For example, if one card is taken out of the deck, the face of the card would appear as 7 of hearts, but the card attached above it is the 4 of diamonds. Similarly, if another card is picked from the deck, it would appear as the ace of hearts, but if the card above it is detached, it would be the 4 of diamonds. Each of the cards in the deck has a face-down 4 of diamonds above it which can be detached. Whichever card Simon selects has a detachable 4 of hearts above it, which makes the magician's trick successful regardless of his chosen card. Therefore, the illusionist forced the card selection on Simon. In her last trick, where she claimed she had predicted the word Alicia would choose and wrote it on the board before the show, we made some discoveries. From our discoveries, Issy used a Lynx board for this trick. This board has a hidden mechanism that falls into the base of the board and mechanically moves the chalk. As a result, the chalk writes whatever is written on the app that is connected to the board wirelessly, which is operated by the magician's assistant offstage. This person wrote the word kettle after Alicia said it out loud. At number 3 we have Dynamo bringing a drawing to life illusion. Let's do a quick recap of what happened in the performance. At the beginning of his performance, the magician grabs a napkin and a pen, folds the napkin, and hands both objects to a spectator. Following that, the illusionist tells the bystander to think of any household object and draw a picture of it on the napkin without saying it out loud. While he draws the object, Dynamo turns away, and after drawing the object, the spectator squeezes the napkin and then asks the magician to turn back around. Following that, the illusionist grabs the folded napkin and asks the bystander to visualize and think of the object he drew without saying it out loud. Fascinatingly, Dynamo tells the spectator that he drew a light bulb by reading his mind. Thereafter, the illusionist does something rather more amazing. He drops the napkin on the spectator's palm, makes it fluctuate like a bulb is wrapped within it, and smashes it against his palm. Afterward, the magician unfolds the squeezed napkin, and a sketched picture of a broken bulb is seen in it. Well, how did he perform his trick? Here is the explanation. First of all, the spectator wasn't a stooge, but the object he drew wasn't a free selection. Before the camera started recording Dynamo's performance with the spectator, a setup was done. This setup is known as pre-show work. The purpose of this setup was so that Dynamo made sure the household item the spectator thought of was exactly what Dynamo wanted him to think of. because his trick was designed such that he could only perform the trick if the spectator thought of a light bulb. To make the spectator think of a light bulb, Dynamo handed the young man a special notepad known as a Svengali notepad. The Svengali notepad is a gimmick notepad. When flipped one way, it shows the same words on each page. But when the same notepad is flipped the other way, it shows different words. First he showed the spectator that the notepad had different items written on it by flipping it one way. Then he handed the notepad to the spectator and asked him to cut the notepad anywhere. When they follow Dynamo's instructions, and they will always cut to the short page and see the same word. Before handing him the notepad, the illusionist tells the spectator that there are different household objects written in the notepad, and he confirms it. Hence, during the performance, when Dynamo asked the spectator to think of any household object, the magician already knew the object he would choose since it was forced on him. Additionally, when the bystander gave the magician the squeezed-up napkin, he placed it in his right hand and his left hand wasn't in the camera's view. During that moment we made some observations. The first observation was that there was a camera cut as the position of the camera suddenly changed. During the camera cut, the napkin on which the bystander drew the light bulb was switched to another napkin. That napkin contained the drawing of a shattered light bulb, and the switch was done without the spectators realizing. Also, the napkin contained an LED that was connected to a button cell. The LED was crumbled up inside the second squeezed-up napkin. So to make it light up after he placed the napkin, the illusionist touched the button cell with his finger to make it fluctuate like an actual bulb. Following that, when Dynamo smashed his palm against the bystander's palm with the napkin in it, we heard a crunching sound. The magician was wearing 2 bracelets on his wrist, and when he smashed the spectator's palm, the beads on the bracelets hit one another and created that sound. Thereafter, the illusionist ensured he opened up the napkin himself to prevent the spectators from discovering the LED it contained, and after unfolding it, his left palm was completely closed because he was holding the LED in it. Additionally, we noticed that he quickly moved his left hand out of frame after unfolding the napkin to hide the LED. In the end, we noticed a difference between the screwing area of the light bulb the spectator drew and the screwing area of the shattered light bulb sketch. This further confirms our claim of 2 different drawings being utilized. At number 2 we have Cyril Takayama's hand through aquarium illusion. Let's do a quick recap of what happened in the performance. In this trick, the magician collects a necklace from a female spectator and drops it in an aquarium. Thereafter, he grabs a paper towel, rubs it on the aquarium's glass, pushes his hand through the glass and picks up the necklace magically from the aquarium. Well, how did he perform his trick? Here is the explanation. Although the aquarium looks normal merely looking at it while the illusionist performs his trick, we made some observations. From our observations, we noticed that the aquarium's glass extends to its upper and lower sections. However, there is water involved in this trick as there is water in the aquarium. Performing this trick with a single glass layer with a hole inside it would cause the water to rush out of the aquarium. As it turns out, the magician uses 2 pieces of glass to make his trick work. The first piece of glass is confined and fixed inside the metallic frame around the aquarium. On the other hand, the second piece of glass is movable and is in front of the fixed glass. Also, the movable glass is extendable to the upper section of the aquarium. Additionally, looking closely, we notice that there is a hole in both the movable glass and the fixed glass, and these holes are initially parallel to each other. This enables his hand to pass through the glass seemingly without any trouble. In addition, we noticed a rectangular structure on the inner part of the fixed glass in the diagrams. This is in fact a large piece of clear tape that is stretched to cover beyond the entire hole. The first purpose of this tape is to prevent the water from moving right through the hole. Also, the purpose of using a large piece of tape being stretched to cover beyond the hole is due to the pressure of the water in the aquarium. Without the tape extended, the water would leak out, so to prevent that from happening, they taped a larger area in the aquarium's inner part in the hole in the glass. As it turns out, the spectators are all stooges and their reactions are fake. If they were not stooges, they would have noticed the tape in the aquarium. The whole point of the magician using stooges for his performance is to make viewers believe in the legitimacy of his illusion. Cyril could have performed his illusion without the paper towel, but if he did, his trick would have been exposed before it kicked off. Instead, he placed the napkin on the aquarium's glass to hide the trick he was about to perform. In reality, his fingers were puncturing through the tape. When the illusionist asked the kid to tap the glass of the aquarium to confirm that the glass wasn't a gimmick, we observed some things. From our observations, the boy tapped the glass, but he avoided tapping the area where the hole was. Instead, he tapped the area underneath the hole. Eventually, When he placed the paper towel on the glass, we noticed the paper bending inward slightly, which wouldn't have been possible if it was real glass. Once he punctures it and water begins to lick out slowly, he positions his fingers together, and shoves his entire arm into it. The purpose of suddenly shoving his hand through the hole in the glass was to stop the flow of the water. The surface of the glass wraps around the skin of his arm. Hence, his arm served as a seal to prevent the water from rushing out of the aquarium. Following that, Cyril grabs the necklace in the aquarium, but his arm is still stuck in the hole. When he pulled his arm out of the hole, he did it swiftly and used the paper towel to push the movable glass downward. Once the magician pushed the glass downward, it sealed off the aquarium completely and his trick was completed. At number 1 we have Trigg Watson's digital sorcery. Let's do a quick recap of what happened in the performance. The magician begins his illusion by turning on a video player screen on stage and grabbing a red handkerchief off a lady's hand from the screen. Following that, Trigg magically throws the handkerchief on a man's mouth in another video. Afterward, the illusionist mysteriously takes the green shades Heidi had on in a video off her face from the screen. Then in another video, he replaces Howie's glasses with the green shades he took off Heidi. Thereafter, Trigg makes the love emojis in another video come out of the screen and float in the air. Following that, he takes Terry's shirt off his body and pulls it out of the screen in another video. Afterward, the magician amazingly pulls a pack of juice from another TikTok and pours it into a cup in the same video. Then he collects some playing cards from his recorded self in the screen. Well, how did he perform his trick? Here is the explanation. To make his first trick work, the illusionist used an invisible thread hanging in front of the screen which is connected to a red hanky behind the screen. He grabs the invisible thread hanging in front of the screen and pulls the hanky from behind the screen. That explains why his left thumb closes against his palm and the handkerchief pops out afterward. In his second trick where he takes the shades off Heidi's face, the first thing we observe is that the video screen is synchronized with a 3D hologram fan. Holographic fans are types of displays that produce a three-dimensional image seemingly floating in the air using the principle of persistence of vision. Using strips of RGB LEDs attached to the blades of the fan, and control unit light up the pixels. The holographic fan is connected behind the screen and its motor is well hidden from the view of the camera and the audience. Trigg positioned the holographic fan behind the screen because the audience would have seen the motor while the fan was spinning. Additionally, we notice him taking the sunglasses out of his pocket when his left hand slightly goes behind his back. Also, we observe the magician holding the green sunglasses in his left hand clipped with his fingers while the hologram projects the glasses in the air. While the glasses remain hidden in his hand, he twists his fingers in the air where the holographic glasses are floating to make it seem like he is grabbing them from the air. In his third trick where the illusionist switches Howie's glasses to the glasses he took off Heidi's face, we made some observations. Paying attention to the moments before he performs the trick, we notice his left hand taking something out of his pocket. The magician brought out the sunglasses and clipped them between his fingers. We observed a bit of the shade of the sunglasses the moment he put his hand before Howie's face in the video. Then he curls his fingers to reveal the glasses. In Trigg's subsequent illusion where he makes some heart emojis levitate off a TikTok video and appear in his hand, we made several observations. The magician uses the advanced back palm technique to make it seem like he magically made the emojis appear in his hands. To use this technique, the illusionist already had the emoji paper cutouts in his hands. To understand this concept, you can see how playing cards are produced. You simply press your thumb on the corner of the card to slide them out one after the other while the rest stayed behind his palm. Hence, he could produce as many heart emoji cutout using the same technique. In the next trick where the illusionist takes Terry's shirt off, we notice some things. Looking closely, we spotted a black thread wired around Trigg's thumb. As it turns out, that thread is connected to a blue shirt hidden behind the screen which is similar to the shirt Terry had on in the video. Then he pulled it out from behind the screen and made it seem like he pulled it from inside the screen with supernatural powers. In the magician's subsequent trick where he makes a juice box appear magically, we notice something fishy. Looking closely, we saw a black object beside the screen and as the performance continued, we noticed the black object extending from behind the holographic fan. Then the black shadow disappeared to where it originated from. As it turns out, there is a mechanism behind the screen that is synchronized with the video and holographic animation of the juice box. The shelf mechanism behind the screen upon which the juice box is placed moves back and forth from its original position. It wasn't detected by the audience because it is black and it camouflaged with the black costume the illusionist had on. The shelf brought out the juice before the magician and returned to its original position after he took the juice off it. Also, we noticed that the holographic fan is positioned in front of the shelf so his hands will be behind the fan while the animation is running. Therefore, he was able to bring out the juice box from behind the holographic fan. In addition, the juice box was empty when he supposedly poured juice out of it into a boy's cup on the video player screen. Instead, the holographic fan was once again used to perform the juice pouring trick rather than him pouring the juice from the real box. Sorry for interrupting again. But if you enjoy these reveals and can financially help me in improving the production quality, consider supporting me on Patreon. It really helps grow this channel. Thank you. Now let's get back into the video. In his last illusion where he presumably grabs playing cards from his hands and a video playing on the screen, we noticed some things. We observed that he palmed a card in his left hand and revealed it to make it seem like he took it off the screen magically with his left hand. To produce the cards in his right hand, he used the aforementioned back palm technique. The holographic fan displayed an animation of a hand holding cards, then revealed the palmed cards to make it seem like he took it from the animated hand. Furthermore, in the ending part of his last trick where his recorded self shoots out several cards out of the screen, we made some observations. He used a popular magician prop known as the stage card ejector mount. There is a motor that is controlled by an Arduino board that is programmable and connected to a battery. Then he used a transmitter remote to control the motor in the mechanism. To utilize this prop for his trick, he placed the deck between the motor and the stand, then he pressed the transmitter. The card ejector was attached behind the video player screen. Afterward, Trigg's assistant offstage pressed the transmitter at the right time to make the ejector shoot out the cards and made it seem like a real magic trick. That's all for today, thanks for watching, and as always, have a great day.